We're talking about an email list that you cultivate that has real value to you and your consumer. We hate spam. Let's talk about spam. I told you about all the great reasons to have an email list, but now I'm going to turn the table and I'm going to rant a little bit about spam. I hate spam, guys. Let's talk about the kinds of spam you could be involved in. So I'm going to refer to it from two different directions. Incoming and outgoing. Okay, so the incoming spam, that's the kind you get. That's the kind that comes to you. That's the kind I was referring to earlier, right? The herbal supplement, the blue pill, the whatever, dating, hot dating website, I don't know what they all are now, but they're all kind of like that, right? Herbal remedies and, sex, drugs, and rock and roll, right? That's pretty much what they're all about. So, and then there's the outgoing email. That's where it seems like you're the one sending the email, and we'll go into a little bit more about that. How can we avoid both of those things? Incoming, the kind you get; outgoing, the kind you send. I'll tell you more about why I quoted that. So here's some tips on incoming spam. So be careful when you sign up for something. We were just talking about that, right? You want to sign up for things that you want to receive email from, but there may be times when you want to get to the thing, but you don't really want them to have your actual email address, or you're not sure if you trust that person. So there's a couple things to do. The first thing I want to point out is be careful when signing up. Be careful to whom you're giving that email address. You want to make sure it's someone with a great reputation like myself, someone that's using a documented service to track that email list, to make sure that they're in compliance with all the rules and all the laws, and make it really easy to unsubscribe. There's people that'll collect your email address, but they don't have those same principles. You don't know what they're going to do with it. So give your email address to trusted professionals that you know will respect you, and be cautious when not. And this is an excellent place to point out. This includes Facebook games. When you sign up for a game, or if you're on Facebook and one of your friends has posted one of those quizzes, or see what celebrity you look like, or see what animal you look like, or yada, 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 right? When you see those little games and quizzes and puzzles on Facebook, when you click go and you go to it and you click allow, you are allowing that application to take your personal information. What I'm saying to you is you may be giving them your email address without realizing it. Because when you authorize that app or game or quiz or whatever to have your Facebook information, they may be taking your Facebook, the email address that's associated with your Facebook account right then. Or when you go to a website and you sign in with Facebook, or you sign in with Google account, what you're doing is you're signing up for an account with that company using the email address that you're already using with Facebook or Google. So I want you to be cautious. I want you to be cautious about who you give your email address to, and I want you to be cautious about using Facebook, games, quizzes, tools, whatever, because they could just be taking your email address as part of you allowing. There's that little screen that says allow permissions or allow whatever. Or if you go to a website and click login as Facebook, they also could get your email address that way. So sometimes, most of the time, very often, when I go to a website, I won't sign in using my Facebook address. I'll manually create an account with an email address and a new password, so I can kind of control that. It's not directly tied to my Facebook profile. Does that make sense? Here's a couple tools on how you could do that. So be cautious where you give your email. Sometimes people may have like the main email. Let's say they have a Gmail address and that's their main email. And then they may create another email like a Yahoo or a Hotmail account and then use that as their spam email. So if they're not sure about where they're giving that email address, they'll use that secondary one and not their real one. Does that make sense to you? The other thing that we can do, if you're working with someone like me who can create multiple email addresses for you using your domain name, that's also an option where you could have your real one, like cj@askawebgeek.com, but then you can also create other ones like info@ or customer service @ We'll come back to this on the next slide, but that's an option. Multiple email addresses or multiple email boxes like a Gmail and a Yahoo, or multiple email addresses that even go to the same box but give us power to cut one off. I'll come back to that. Or there's also these tools that are called 10-minute emails. Really cool little tools. You could just do a quick Google search for 10-minute email. I found a couple that popped up. I'm not sure which one's the original. I'm not sure which one I would recommend. These two that I found and I'm listing here look pretty good. This one's called 10-minute mail. 10 is spelled as 10. 10minutemail.com. Also 10minemail.com. So it's 10minutemail.com or 10minemail.com. Both of those websites look pretty good to me. So what this does is it generates a quick temporary email address for you. It's got some gobbledygook characters at whatever their website is, and they create an inbox right there on the website. So you go to the tool, it generates an email address for you. You can use that address to sign up for that other thing, that guide, that hopefully not CJ's video workshop because you're going to miss the reminder emails, but you can use that for that purpose where you're just taking this temporary email, you pop it in this box, and the website even allows you to receive email for 10 minutes. And there's often a button that says, I want to keep it going for another 10 minutes, or I'm still using it, or whatever. But it's a temporary email address. There's nothing really to sign up for other than you click go, you say, give me an address. They give it to you. You can use it to sign up. You can even receive email right there in that website for a few minutes to verify it or whatever you need to do. So it's an option. I don't want you to use that for my video workshop because you'll miss the reminder emails. But if you're not sure about the tool you're using or the place where you're giving away that email address, this might be a good option for you as well. And also, my final piece of advice on this slide also is going to directly tie in with the next one, and that's be careful where it's published. So not only do you need to be careful using Facebook or your Google sign-in, you need to be careful where you're listing your email address. And I'm going to say this again on the next slide, but it's important to say it here. Don't put your real email address on your website. That's my recommendation. I would say avoid that. Avoid publishing your real email address to any directories, to your website, because whatever email address you put out into the world, it eventually will become the target of spam because there's these little programs that they create. They call them bots. Sometimes they call them spider bots. And it's a little computer program, and its only job is to crawl all over the internet and find every email address it can and suck it into a list. That's how they're doing it. That's how they're creating these spam email lists. So to avoid getting on that spam email list, you need to be very cautious where you're publishing your email address. So don't ever put it on. Don't put your real one on your website. Let's do something different. They can still contact you, but you're not giving away your real email address. We'll talk about that on the next slide. So that's all about incoming spam, spam that's coming into you and how to avoid that. Let's talk about outgoing spam. That is to say, you are sending spam. You don't mean to, but this is how it can happen. There's two ways that this can happen. So the first way is they got into your account. You have a Hotmail account, Yahoo account, whatever, and you're not using a very secure password, and they've been able to hack into your account. Again, remember those bots I was talking about that go out and look for email addresses? They've also programmed bots that will just try to crack into your email address, and they'll use something that they call, there's a password cracking tool that they call like a dictionary bot, but basically what happens is they use every word in the dictionary as an attempt of a password to get into your account. Now, it happens in microseconds, right? It's computers that are running this. So some websites will not allow you to try to log into your website more than like 3 times before it locks up, right? This is why. This is to prevent those automated bots that are trying to access your account repeatedly. Ding, 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 ding. And they literally will run every word in the dictionary. And that's why we want to say avoid using long, legitimate words. I'll create another video where I talk about passwords. I don't think I've done that yet, about how to create a secure password that you can remember. So you don't want to use regular dictionary words. And there's also a couple things you don't want to use. You don't want to use 1, 2, 3, 4. You don't want to use ABCD. You don't want to use common there's a list of common passwords that people use, like password or God or Jesus. These are really common passwords that they will automatically try to use to hack into your account. So my recommendation for you is you need to secure your password. Have a secure password that is a mix of uppercase, lowercase, numbers, and symbols. That's the best way to avoid being hacked into or cracked into. And remember, there's very seldom an actual person, an actual nerd, sitting at the computer trying to hack into your account. It is usually one of these spider bots that they've created that's just trying to crack into any hole it can find. It's going to crack into it, okay? It's going to suck in email addresses. It's going to find a form where I can send out awful things, or they're always trying to mess with our websites, guys. So this is why I hate spammers. So they got in your account. We want to avoid that by using a secure password. So this used to be a big problem. I think it still is, but you have a Yahoo, you have a Hotmail account, you've used a regular word, they gain access to your account, and then they start sending out email from inside your account. Or they download your contacts. That is to say, they get all of your friends' email addresses, and then they send it to all of them. They can use your account to send out email. However, they don't have to actually get into your account to pretend that they're using your account. So that's why I've got it here as a second bulletin. So there's 2 ways it can happen. Number 1, they actually got into your account. They're actually able to get into your Facebook account and then send out messages to your friends. Or they got into your Yahoo or Hotmail account and are sending out email, or they're downloading your contact list. However, they can send out email pretending to be you. That is to say, if they've found your email address somewhere, they can basically spoof it. They can pretend that they're sending out an email as you, but they never actually got into your email address to do it. They're just pretending to use your email. And the way that you'll find out that this is happening is all of a sudden you'll start getting all this email of error messages. All of these emails will come to you and it's going to say undeliverable message or could not be delivered. And it's going to look like all of a sudden you tried to send hundreds of people an email that bounced. Well, that's because someone did that on your behalf. Isn't that wonderful? Don't you just love people in the jungle? They're using your email address, pretending it's theirs, sending out 1 million emails, and then all of those bounced emails do actually come back to you because it looks like that's the email address that it came from. I'm so sorry to say there's nothing you can do about that. They can say they're using any email address they want, and there's really nothing we can do about that, except use a few precautions to prevent that from happening. So one of those precautions takes me right back to something I said again. Be very careful where you're publishing your email address. Be careful where you're giving your email address. Make sure that when you sign up for something, it's someone you trust. It's someone that you know is going to respect your email address, isn't going to sell it, isn't going to become a spammer. And you need to be careful where it's published. So if you've got a website, please do not put your actual email address on your website. Instead, let's set up what I like to call an info@ address, which can forward to your email address. And that's the one you can put on your website. So when I create a website, let's say gilbertstudios.com, and then I'll create another email address, info@gilbertstudios.com. to put out an email address, and if it should ever become a target of spam and it's too much, we can kill off that email address and replace it. I did have to do that last month. I've been using info@gilbertstudios.com for years. That's the one I publish on my website. That's the one I publish in all my directory listings, on my Facebook page, blah, blah, blah. And eventually it happened. It was inevitable, but it took, I don't know, 14, 15 years, 10 years of using that email address before it got bad enough that I had to kill it. I killed that email address and said, enough is enough. Because it happened to me, where all of a sudden I was getting those hundreds of emails pouring in to info@Gilbert Studios that they were using. They didn't get into my account. They just found it along the lines and they pretended that was their email address. So because I was using this kind of an address, I could just kill it. I could just delete it. It doesn't exist anymore, and replace it with something else. So I created hello@gilbertstudios.com, and that's the one that's now on my website and in all my directory listings. So who knows how many years I'll be able to have that one before we have to deal with it. But that's a real world example. It actually happened to me. I had to kill it, replace it with something else. But because I was using this system and I had this in place, it was very easy to do that. It was very easy to kill it off and replace it with something else. So and my real email address, cj@gilbertstudios.com, wasn't affected, because that's not one I publish. That's one that I, only use in personal correspondence. So are you following all of that? Does that make sense to you? How does that feel? Does that feel like something that we can avoid together in the future? You need to be cautious, right? Spam versus email list. Incoming versus outgoing. Take a rewind back if you need to go over any of those details again. Again, spam, we do not want. We don't want to receive it. We don't want to send it. We don't want to be accused of sending it. If you are creating an email list, which you do want to cultivate an email list for your followers, for your community, for your audience. That's important. And the only people that are on that list are people that have requested it and that have signed up on purpose. They've said, let me be on your list. Send me email. We want to have raving fans that are excited to hear from you